Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the first story. Once again, these are weird but true stories. And the first story here, let's go ahead and share the screen. Rotting for decades. Failure to launch inside an eerie warehouse where 189 million pounds, it's because the sun.co.uk, which is a great source for weird stories. Uh, that's their headline here. Now, getting into the article, the giant 189 million pounds of shuttles failed to ever make it into orbit, leaving the Soviet Union labeling them as worthless as they sat untouched and falling apart for decades. And here are some pictures that you can see here. These are here pictures of these rotting spaceships that have just been stuck there forever. Urban explorer Greg abandoned spot the Soviet air shuttles while adventuring through the steppe of Kazakhstan, a vast grassland with a friend. That is totally crazy English there. The adventurous Brit was trying to track down a mammoth space shuttle called Pichka, meaning little bird in Russian. As he also stumbled across a second rocket. The USSR pumped huge sums of cash into their space program as they raced against the US to achieve success in the cosmos. Incredible images shot on Greg's Sony camera show the 105-ton carcass of the Pichka covered in dust after being deserted in the huge hangar, which I just showed some of those pictures. After a failed mission decades ago, the complex 189 million pounds craft had been left to rot in the remote warehouse. A second huge shuttle was also found, with Greg saying it was marked as a test rocket and was never meant to fly. They are kept in a hangar called MZK, which stands for Assembly and Fueling Building, CNN reports. The exact location of the abandoned warehouse, has been kept under wraps for decades in order to protect the incredible discovery, says Greg. Reports say that they are located in the steppe of Kazakhstan, which this article is really repeating itself a lot. With the content creator, which is this Greg guy, saying his trip across uncertain terrain seemed like going to hell and back, but it was all worth it in the end, as he boasted to his 113,000 Instagram followers after the trip. Opposite the warehouse sits an even creepier building filled with endless souvenirs from botched space missions. Inside, there is a Soviet designed 193-foot tall Energia rocket, dubbed Buran, that was abandoned after a failed test run. Let's go ahead and just continue down to the bottom of the article here. The Soviet space program was later suspended due to a lack of funds after just the first Buran flight. It was officially terminated in June 1993 by President Boris Yeltsin, who left the wasted structures to rot. Greg added, at the time of the cancellation, 20 billion rubles, which once again is just 189 million pounds, which has been said in this article a gazillion times by now, had been spent on the Buran program. Launched in the early 1970s and formally suspended in 1993, the Russian Buran program delivered a shuttle which orbited the Earth on November the 15th, 1988. I'm just surprised they didn't like repurpose these. I don't know. I think watching YouTubers talking about like tiny homes and stuff like that, the Soviet Union. I don't think it's called that anymore. But why didn't repurpose these ships into like homes or to a building or just a place where people can live? Interesting, but that is a true but weird story. Number one. Now getting into number two, and also not here on Twitch. Maybe I can in the description, but I will go ahead and leave links to these articles if you wanted to go look into them yourself. All right, getting into the second story, and this is on IGN. I normally visit IGN for video game news, but they used to post these kind of strange, odd stories. But and going to the site recently, and frequently, I go to IGN almost on a daily basis. I haven't noticed them posting these kinds of stories. Now, this particular article was published in May of 2022. I kind of held on to this link here for a while. It was around the time that the first Godzilla vs. Kong movie came out. The second one just came out this year, and I have a review for that coming out very soon. Even though the movies come out months ago, I've just been kind of just delayed in publishing these reviews. I'm just a one-man operation in terms of doing this, so it just takes me some time with some things. But in this article, the headline being, scientists discover hidden ancient forest in a sinkhole. No sign of Godzilla or Kong yet. Because in the movies, there's this kind of other Earth within the Earth, like it's kind of like the core of the Earth. There's a whole other kind of um, existence there, a whole other almost planet. But you can have a planet within a planet, but there is this whole other kind of land that's in the center of the Earth, and that's where, especially the latest Godzilla versus Kong movie takes place. But this is a real, true story. It's something that really happened. Um, Getting into the article here, scientists have found an ancient forest hidden with a giant sinkhole in the Guangxi region of China, which could be home to previously unknown species. It's all vaguely reminiscent of the Hollow Earth from Godzilla vs. Kong, but there's no sign of any kaiju yet. They're kind of just kidding with that second part there. Cave explorers alerted scientists when they discovered a sinkhole measuring 630 feet deep, 1,000 feet long, and 490 feet wide. But its size was not the only matter of significance, according to the Xinhua News. The prodigious pit was housing a well-preserved primitive forest with ancient trees as tall as 130 feet, serving as a potential habitat for undiscovered species. A cave exploration team have sailed down and trekked for several hours to reach the bottom of the sinkhole on May 6th. Once again, this was from 2022. China Global Television Network posted a video on Twitter showing highlights from their expedition to the tree covered terrain where they found dense shade plants coming up to their shoulders and three caves hidden in the walls of the site. Now, I'm going to go ahead and try to play this video. This is from that news website, and they have a video of what they found. Let me see if I can play that here without it's getting wonky. I'm going to make that big and see if that shares here on the screen. All right. And this is a video of what they found. This forest in this sinkhole. It's primitive forest that we're talking about. All right, let's get back into it here. Stop that. Let's scroll down, get to the final paragraphs here of the article. Craters can occasionally offer passage to the past. The Chicxulub crater, I don't know how to spell that exactly. I don't know how to say that exactly. For instance, marks the impact site of an asteroid that struck Earth 66 million years ago. Scientists determined that the asteroid crashed and created a 90-mile deep hole in the ground, which had such an impact that the resulting effects killed all dinosaurs and 75% of the world's animal species. I definitely believe, and I've said this before in previous episodes, previous Weird Stories episodes, that there are definitely things that still have not been discovered on this planet, uh, in the ocean or underneath the Earth's core. Or who knows? We will maybe not have the technology yet to find these things, but I'm telling you that it's fascinating. There's just things that we still do not know that exist on this planet. And I think, like I said, that's really interesting to me. Now, getting into the third story here. This is a brand new story. A lot of times I find these stories on Drudge Report or the sun.co.uk. These kind of, like I said, weird but true stories, which all of these that I'm talking about now are. And this one was reported as of today, July. I'm recording this on July 14th, I guess July 15th, 2024. And the headline being Colombia faces a new problem, too much cocaine. What the heck? For decades, one industry has sustained the small, remote Colombian village of Caño Cabra, and that's cocaine. Those who live in this community in the central part of the country rise early nearly every morning to pick cocoa leaf, scraping brittle branches, sometimes until their hands bleed. Later, they mix the leaves with gasoline and other chemicals to make the chalky white bricks of cocoa paste. But 2 years ago, the villagers said something alarming happened. The drug traffickers who buy the coca paste and turn it into cocaine stopped showing up. Suddenly, people who were already poor had no income. Food became scarce, and an exodus to other parts of Colombia in search of jobs followed. A town of 200 people shrunk down to 40. This town of Caño Cabra. The same pattern was repeated again and again in communities across the country, where the coca is the only source of income. Colombia, the global nexus of the cocaine industry, where Pablo Escobar became the world's best known criminal, which still produces more of the drug than any other nation, is facing tectonic shifts as a result of the domestic and global forces that are reshaping the drug industry. If you want to see an I mean, there is so much content out there um, about the Colombia drug trade during the 80s and Pablo Escobar. One of my favorites being Narcos on Netflix, which is a great show. And I have reviewed one or two of the seasons here on the podcast in years past. But will go into the amount of money that the drug trade and cocaine like help like that some of these guys they had so much money they had to like bury it in places just to kind of find a place to store it, like bury it in some weird farm or under the ground. It's crazy. It's a lot more to it than what I'm explaining, but I just stood out to me reading that line. Continuing here, the changing dynamics have led to blocks of unsold coca paste piling up across the Colombia. uh, The purchase of the paste is more in more than half of the country's coca growing regions has dropped precipitously or disappeared completely, spurring a humanitarian crisis in many remote, impoverished communities. The drug market has never seen such a dramatic downturn, said Felipe Taskin, an economist who had studied the illicit drug economy and had directed a national government program to help move coca farmers to legal crops. I'm thinking maybe like coffee bean or I don't know exactly all the things that are grown in Colombia. Let's just move down here to the bottom of the article, down to the last four paragraphs. Once again, I'll leave links to all these articles in the description for this episode, or when I put it on YouTube, when I put this episode on the podcast form, it'll be on there as well. And you can hear the podcast as the Paul Has Fun podcast. Most major places where you hear podcasts, you can hear the podcast there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, a bunch of places. Continuing, Jefferson Parrado, I think that's the way you say it there, 39, the president of the local council that presides over the region that includes Caño Cabra, said many might switch to raising cattle, one of the world's biggest drivers of deforestation. Other residents said that they might join armed groups out of economic desperation. Several regions have achieved economic development thanks to the coca and cocaine market, said Diego Garcia Devis, who manages the drug policy program at the Open Society Foundations. What income will replace coca income? Another illegal income? Mining, trafficking of humans, wildlife, timber, extortion? In many remote areas of Colombia, it is not economically viable to sell other crops because of the high transportation costs. By the time produce arrived at the market, it would rot, residents said. For many Colombians, the cocaine industry has been their only option. And I'm going to leave that one there. But I mean, it's a reality of a lot of different places in the world. Like when people don't have anything, they'll turn to illegal, whatever is available to them, whether it be legal or illegal, to go ahead and just have some food on the table. So, very interesting story there. Let's see here. And getting to the final story here, this is another, this one was from earlier this year. And this one is once again on IGN under the science section, which, like I said, I haven't seen them update in a while. But then again, maybe I'm not paying close enough attention. This one is Egyptologists thus uncovered an ancient secret connecting 31 pyramid tombs. And underneath the byline to the headline saying, and Noah has nothing to do with with aliens. And my brain, of course, goes to Ancient Aliens, that show. I think it's on the History Channel, so popular and has been around for so many years, because it's a great mystery how these pyramids were built, right? And they say a lot of programming, a lot of literature says it's aliens that had built it and stuff. Getting into the article, the pyramid tombs of Egypt's ancient rulers are amongst the most magnificent man-made structures to have survived through antiquity. Into the modern era, they have succeeded in capturing the curiosity of countless historians. Archaeologists and conspiracy theorists who have spent lifetimes attempting to unravel the secrets of their complex construction and otherworldly purpose. Whilst centuries of intense scrutiny have yielded libraries worth of insights into the nature of the pyramids and their creators, countless mysteries yet remain. Among them is a reason behind the locations of a chain of 31 of the tombs in the unhospitable region of the Sahara Desert in modern day Egypt. Now, an international team of researchers may have discovered the reason behind their placement. They managed this by using a combination of satellite imagery and time tested archaeological techniques to unearth the existence of an ancient waterway connecting the pyramids to the aquatic highway that is the River Nile. So you're hearing that and you think, and it gets into it in the article because I was reading this article before when, like I said, in my previous attempts to do this video, I failed miserably. And it's good to fail. That's how you learn. Is they probably use these connected pathways to go ahead and transport like building materials or to transport whatever kind of goods to build these pyramids. Getting a little further into the article here. This is a quote here. They're quoting this one professor who was discussing this here. He says, many of us who are interested in ancient Egypt are aware that Egyptians must have used a waterway to build their enormous monuments like the pyramids and valley temples, but nobody was certain of the location, the shape, the size, or the proximity of these mega waterways to the actual pyramid site, said Iman Gonim, a professor at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. Quoting this professor, he says, our research offers the first map of one of the main ancient branches of the Nile at such a large scale, and it links with the largest pyramid fields of Egypt. The newly discovered waterway, which has been named for the Arabic word for pyramid called Aramat, is thought to have been active during the 1,000-year period in which the pyramids were being constructed, which began some 4,700 years ago in the Old Kingdom era and spanned several dynasties. And like I said, this story goes back to the same thing I was saying before, that there are still things on this planet that we have not discovered. And I mean, it's also just exciting with technology developing, maybe discoveries we can make in space, we can make on the moon, right? Or, we can finally get to Mars. So, but there's still so many things on this planet alone that are like fascinating that we haven't discovered yet. But that's going to be it for the stories for this episode. I'll go back to the single shot here. Look forward to doing more of these this year, more of these weird stories. And once again, you can find all my content at paulhasfun.com. That's scrolling down there on the ticker. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, if you're going to be listening to this at a later time. And post all your thoughts and comments down below or on the blog at paulhasfun.com. My name is Paul, and I will talk to you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching.